500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck. And upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom. Enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds you.
G'day everyone. For those who came in late, you're listening to Expand the Phantom podcast. This is episode 94, a special on Choloman Oshoriri, the Bengali Phantom fan film that has been out and available for a couple of months now on YouTube and on Facebook video, and we're going to focus on that today. Very excited for this one because of the way we're going to do it, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. My name's Dan Fraser, and tonight I am joined by Stephen East and Jermaine Parker. How are you boys? Stephen?
I'm good, Dan, and yourself?
Yeah, good mate, good. Keeping well, sitting in the car, I assume?
Yeah, I've got a nice little cosy spot
So
going at the moment.
So you've basically gone to the drive-in tonight.
That's right.
Very good. Look, we're not going to muck around too much because we've got. I don't know how long this is going to go for, but we have already recorded part of tonight's podcast in that a week or two ago. Jermaine and I were lucky enough to be able to speak with the director and the writer of Choloman, Abir Roy, and that interview is going to follow very shortly. And he was joined by Sagardeep Roy, who was the actor who played the Phantom in Cholomon. And that was really exciting, and I know that you should be looking forward to hearing from those guys as well. But we thought what we would do to start the podcast is a bit of a fan commentary of the film. Have you seen the movie already, gents?
Yeah, I've seen it about 2-3 times.
Yep.
I've seen about half of it. I watched half of it and then got caught away to something and didn't get back to it. So
Okay.
the first half will be something I've seen before, but the second half, I'll be seeing it for the first time.
Well, we'll get into it, as I said, because we've got 37 minutes and change of the movie to watch and do a commentary of, and then the interview to get into. What we have done is right now, I hope you guys have got the opening screen of Cholomon staring at you. The Phantom is created by Lee Falk and is owned by King Features. Very good. Yep. All right, we're all sitting on 000. So on the count of three, boys, 1, 2, 3, go.
I'm not even sure if mine worked.
Oh no, it's a slow
names
start.
or logos.
That's right, it's a slow start.
Yeah.
Foreign language.
I loved how they did the start of actually like talking about the fact of its fan fiction and stuff like that.
And I quite like this disclaimer: smoking is injurious to health. No smoking in the Skull Cove.
Yeah, it's just like a throwback to that, isn't it?
It is, and also there is a fair bit of smoking that features in the film too. So
no animals were harmed.
I found this really interesting, the bit of a background as to Bengali comic culture and the impact that it's had on...
Yeah, it was very educational, and it was great. It was...
Well, as someone who collects all of the international stuff, you would have been really interested in this, I would have thought.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason, is because when you're collecting comics from around the world, there's so many different stories. There's different artists, which means you can contact them and learn about different people that have had something to do with the Phantom. And it's interesting to see how they've done it, and talking about for instance, they were just showing this guy who's got a comic book shop or something, and they've got the Phantom there. I think you almost get a better understanding of just how popular the Phantom is.
Yeah. And even these classic images that we're very familiar with, but foreign language captions.
Yeah, And they're interested in saying the Phantom is not originally a Bengali character. A lot of Australians still believe that the Phantom is Australian as well. So, you know, it's understandable that Bengalians think the same because a lot of Australians think the same as well.
Sure.
And same as in Bengala in India, Phantom is part of our culture as well.
Yep. I got shivers down my spine the first time I watched this and saw that, you know, celebrating 80 years. It was just that buzz of excitement. I'm watching a new Phantom film.
It's the anticipation that got me.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I'm feeling now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch a film, people keep chatting through it, and then someone phone.
Yeah, isn't that annoying when people chat through the film?
Lucky it's got subtitles.
Yeah, I was reading those and I was thinking, shut up, fellas, I'm trying to read here.
I'm always the one that has a go at the wife for talking and stuff like that, and I've trained her quite well actually, especially during the football. But now I'm doing what we hate. I love the intro here.
Yeah.
Just because it gives you like the Phantom that we love is mysterious, always in the shadows, and we don't always see the Phantom, but we see where the Phantom has been, and this demonstrates that.
And if the Phantom was real and in our society today, this is how you'd come up, you know, there'd be news footage of it, and they've got weird marks on their face.
And they're all, yeah.
And I thought the skull mark was really well done. Deep bruising.
Yeah, you've been whacked and you're not whacking up.
Yeah.
The ghost who walks. Good soundtrack.
Yeah, it is.
Well, as someone who's a musician, Steve, what excites you about the sound?
What was that? Sorry? I had the volume turned up.
As someone who's a musician, the resident musician out of the three of us, what excites you about it?
Oh, that was just like a typical action movie theme that's just going. It was strong and powerful. You've got the big chords happening with the nice brass section. Then you got the violins going over to pop, 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 pop. You know, give you a sense of urgency, of excitement.
Yeah. The thing I liked about that, where we see the Phantom in the water and that, is that, like a lot of, seems to be very common in today's TV and movies, is that you have the time jumps.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, okay, we know where the Phantom's going to be, and now we're getting the story on how he was there. I must admit, the thing that interested me was why, this is a question I probably should have asked Abir, is why horse racing.
Yeah, why is he a jockey? He seems like a big fella to be a jockey. I don't know that he'd be able to get a run in the Melbourne Cup.
I was just looking for Royal Hero to be mentioned there along the
that would have been good.
Horse names. There's no white horse though.
Christopher Standish and Royal Hero perhaps in a different lane. Different lane.
That's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for the jockey names.
Yeah, so Christopher Standish was, I think, horse number 6 or something.
Oh, okay. Is he wearing purple?
No.
Go, you good thing! Come on, Silver Sovereign!
For international listeners, you'll have no idea why that's funny.
Stick with me, you'll be fat through silk holes.
It was funny when you listen further on. It talks about how he was actually afraid of horses and he's never ridden horses before.
Yeah.
So this was interesting. Rewatching this, knowing that he had like about 1 or 2 weeks learning how to ride a horse.
The relief when your bet comes on.
He's the horse owner.
Or isn't that his old man?
Isn't it? Oh,
yeah,
well, his son's the jockey anyway.
And look at that. Not one hair out of place.
Well, it's like Billy Zane taking the cowl off.
Yeah, that's it.
I wonder how many times when Billy took the cowl off, they actually took his wig off as well. I like this bit here. It really shows the the power, the relationship between father and son.
And it's a strong thing in fan comics, so I'm glad that they've put that there.
Kit. And then no smoking.
Yeah, don't do that.
So, river pirates and on a small boat. It's not quite as glamorous as the original story of the big men of war and these sorts of things.
It is a fan-made film on a budget, dude.
Yeah, I get that. You're not going to get Horatio Hornblower sailing down the creek.
But it's very like what, and again we've discussed this in the interview as well. It's very these are real life problems in India, and that's the thing one of the things that I like about it is I knew a little bit about what they were talking about. I didn't know as much. I've never been there or anything like that, but knowing that there are untouchables, there are real life problems outside of the city and stuff like that, and there's a lot of squalor. I like the fact of it. It adds to the story.
I agree. The word "real" that you use there. The Phantom is a real man who does unreal things, unlike your other superheroes, and this really does place it in a real situation. It's real life.
I like that bit there. We call it the Walker Foundation because we like to help them to walk on their own.
Yeah. There's so many really clever and appropriate nods to Lee Falk tropes.
Something's going to go down here. Got the
these
shifty
bad
eyes going
guys,
at the nods.
they remind me of Wilson McCoy bad guys. Just those real ugly.
Yeah.
As soon as you see them, you know they're bad.
Well, these I say river pirates. These could be the river pirates from Julie.
Yeah, where's Julie? Yeah. Crack! Mate, you're not getting up.
I think this bit was probably the weakest part of the movie. Just like I thought this fight wasn't the strongest. Like the special effects, like when the blood, got spilt and stuff. But if I was being like that that was probably the weakest part for me. But apart from that, I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I can't say. I thought it was done well enough for the type of movie that it is. You do have to keep remembering it's not a Hollywood blockbuster.
No, exactly. I love this bit as well, where it's like in the midst of the battle, in the midst of everything that's going on, the care for.
There's still that moment.
Oh!
And then the fact like where he's saved his son, his last dying out.
Yeah. Not sure that's the best reaction you could have. Steve,
Oh, the bad guy gets blown up?
the whole boat gets blown up, mate.
Oh, I know that. But just the reaction of the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's like my 3-year-old. She laughs when on TV and someone just gets shot. It's like, I don't know if I'm raising a serial killer here or not. Transmitted to me all his heroism as inheritance, as a shield to the loneliness ahead. There's some strong words.
It is.
I love this bit. Oh, excuse me.
Could have used a silhouette.
I love this character.
And we talk a lot about him in the interview that's coming soon, so I don't want to spoil too much of that. But
Nah.
Run! Does he have his hat?
You'll see.
It's all just so well explained in a very, realistic way.
Giving context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more religious overtones than I probably picked up the first couple of times I watched it. The image there before of Jesus Christ the Saviour, and now talking about God spared you, but now all of a sudden we've gone to... Oh, no, yeah, so probably more of that than I remembered.
Yeah.
Not any sort of criticism, just an observation.
Yeah. India is a very religious place.
Yeah, but Bengal's probably got more Christian influence than I sort of realised.
These civilization people call her a quack.
Jungle medicines save the day. You can tell that a bit of money must have been spent on the special effects of blowing up the boat and that sort of thing, because they do use that scene of quite a few times, getting bang for their buck.
Get the money out of it.
This bit's good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, again, when you listen to the interview later on, just how, small where they filmed everything. It, when you listen to it, you get a real appreciation of just of everything. I love this.
Yeah.
Jonku Tribesman,
The Jungar Tribesman.
Kilauea. This is the thing that I think old Jungle saying, comes to Kilauea without love is buried here. I actually just read a Phantom comic, literally yesterday, where it had that Jungle saying in it.
And it's true. The pirate's here, he's buried here. Or he's about to be.
আমার বাবার খুনি আমার সামনে ছিল, কিন্তু আমার কিচ্ছু করার ছিল না। সেই ঠান্ডা মৃতদেহ বারবার আমার অপরাধ হওয়ার স্মরণ করে দিচ্ছিল।
The thing that I like is they spend a lot of time. One of the criticisms they got was that the Phantom is not in his costume as much. But the thing that I actually like is they focused on, on the torment and how he became the Phantom and stuff.
Well, we talked last podcast about the character not having a personality. This guy's got a personality.
Yes. And that's one of the things I like. I like the Phantom stories where we get to hear a little bit about the Phantom as a person.
And even this is logical, it makes sense. I've got no desire to go back to the city. That's my old life. My dad's dead. I don't need to go back to that. This was a bit that blew Angus away when I sat and watched it with him. He could not work out why they were walking around with masks on the back of their head.
Something to do with birds or whatever?
I just assumed that because they're attacking bees that they want to convince the bees to attack the back of their head. I don't know. I couldn't explain to him why.
Just like you guys don't have problems with magpies up there? You put something on the back of your head so the magpies don't come at you?
Yep.
He's got to be a bad guy.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like about it, is that they've depicted the bad guys really well.
Yeah.
Oh, the bastard. He just wants his belly rub. Oh.
And again, classic Phantom poachers.
And he's got the start of the mask and all that as well. I enjoyed this bit.
Yeah, I did too.
This music actually reminds me of some of the Three Musketeers. Yeah. There's the BBC version of it.
Luckily, like all bad guys, they're terrible shots.
That's it.
Had the marksmanship training through the Empire.
Through Mr. Magoo. Mr. Magoo, you know Mr. Magoo, the cartoon character who couldn't see him.
Oh, mate, you're done. There's a bad guy you can't shoot.
Yeah. They build up the tension quite well.
Oh!
That's a bit Walker there as well. I thought this was interesting how they had another person who saved him die in front of his face, and that it really, I thought it was well done because like it demonstrates he's got a long way to go, demonstrates the love that he has for the band of village now, and then also the sense of duty that has arisen.
And the sense now I have to become worthy of this.
Yeah.
There's that father and son element again.
Yeah. So this stuff actually happens in real life as well. Like they call them the untouchables. And
That's to do with the case system that they had over there.
That's right.
yeah, yeah.
Looks like we need someone to be the law in this wildland. So, Steve, we hear a lot about it in the interview, but the actor playing Garan here is not an actor at all, just a bloke they know.
All right.
Works at the local coffee shop.
Well, I call them tea houses over there, but yeah.
নিপীড়িত, অবহেলিত, পশুর মতো বেঁচে থাকা মানুষগুলোর পাশে থাকা আমার লড়াই কোনোদিন সফল হবে না যদি আমি একজন সাধারণ মানুষ হয়ে লড়ি। আমার পরিচয়, আমার অস্তিত্ব আমায় দুর্বল বানিয়ে আমার লক্ষ্যের পথে সবচেয়ে বড় বাধা হিসেবে দাঁড়াবে।
I wonder what that card. I thought it was a credit card the last time, but I wonder what that card is.
No, I
in
think it's his voter's card.
Okay.
So basically, to be able to vote and stuff like that. So it's like his identity, like his passport.
But he keeps that
like
one and throws the rest.
Oh, for this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always loved about the fan was the whole swearing of the oath. It's such a powerful moment that probably doesn't get focused on enough.
And this is, I hadn't realised before, this is the funeral fire of Haru.
Yeah.
So he's gone back to that funeral fire to swear the oath, almost to his friend as well as to his father.
Yeah.
This is really well done, this scene.
আমার সাথে যা হয়েছে তার কোনো দিন কারোর সাথে হবে না। আমি শপথ দিচ্ছি, পাপ, লোভ আর অত্যাচার ধ্বংস করাই আমার জীবনের একমাত্র লক্ষ্য হবে।
It's almost, I reckon that's word to word.
Yeah.
The oath.
Yeah, I was going to say. I reckon it is. I think that's done better than it was done in the Billy Zane movie.
Yeah, only by about 100 times. That was awesome, yeah. Don't need any magic ring there. Or Bandar wearing a mask.
So this is a really cool element that they could have by having the origin story set in present day, is that he goes back to his old life briefly, just to
Right. Yeah,
wrap
get the
everything
money.
up, get the money to help set himself up. What he goes and does from here in terms of getting the costume put together and getting himself organised for the vigilante, I guess, that he's about to become, and saying goodbye to his old life.
Yeah. And then you've got the training, and even in the movie it looks like you can actually see him bulking up.
Yeah, yeah.
লড়াই কি করে লড়াই? নায়ক, সৈনিক, সে যার বুকে রক্তের থেকে বেশি থাকে সাহস। সাহস দিয়ে গেছেন বাবা। আর অস্ত্র? কারণ অস্ত্রের সামনে
9/11 45s, they're the right weapon.
শরীর মেনেছিল।
I thought this bit was a bit funny. He's buying guns from a gun smuggler who he would probably smack and put in prison later on.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
You can start to see the Phantom, like before he was wearing a hoodie, now he's wearing glasses.
Yeah.
You can kind of start to see,
The identity disappearing.
Yeah. This is a nice little touch. He's still a human.
Yeah, and it's obviously a good. I think it's a really clever way of getting him to write his name, and actually, that's it. This is him turning into Kid Walker.
Yeah. I was just seeing if there was any other names in there that were interesting, but no Lee Fawkes or anything.
This is I know in such a short film there's only so much you can do, but just the way that he comes across the rings seems a bit simple, a bit easy.
Yeah. But I like the symbol, I know what he's saying, but I thought it was a good way of introducing the Phantom rings.
ক্রিস্টোফার স্ট্যান্ডিশ আর তার বংশ
I don't know how you do it any differently in such a short film like this, but yeah.
আর তার সাথে
What? There's no real story behind this other than it's a family heirloom.
প্রতীক, বন্ধুত্বের প্রতীক, সুরক্ষার প্রতীক।
And a bit of the get the female audience interested. But I'm watching this TV show at the moment, and it's got this guy, and I swear that in every episode it has a shot of him with his shirt off. Must be in his contract or something. Stuck the Guardian. I do that a bit sometimes as well when I'm looking in front of the mirror. Oh, yep, still got it.
প্রয়োজন হয় বই কি।
It's a little weird that he now carries the skull around with him and has taken it to
But you gotta
town.
remember, this is just the good mark. He's only just got the good mark now.
Yeah, yeah.
Now with the origin of the skull.
Yeah, but no, all it just cuts to now he's wearing the skull ring, so...
Now we've got the dark glasses.
Yeah. Tony DePaul would love the fact that they brought him in as a biker.
That's it.
We like the bunting on the front of it.
Yeah, so that's probably more Indian than Johnny Hotwire.
What I thought was interesting was when Abir told us how much money the costume cost him to get made. Do you remember that, Dan?
It was, but naff all is what I thought. Wasn't it the equivalent?
$50 or something.
It was the equivalent of like $50 Australian. Will probably be proved wrong in an hour when he says it was 80 or something. But yeah. What do you think of the costumes, Dave?
Well, straight away the pecs and abs have drawn me, like a skull shape. That looks like a Magneto helmet.
Yeah. I actually don't mind the design of the skull ring. It's nice and simple and light, and you know, it's not like the icon rings that are super bulky and ostentatious. It's just a simple. Yeah.
And here you go, Stephen. You'll see your straw hat very soon. I think. Pretty sure.
Is he wearing it now? Can't see.
I hadn't picked up before about the. Yeah, that's cool.
There he is.
Yeah, I hadn't picked up before about the addition of the glasses as it goes. It is well thought out. Yeah, Garan in his hat. That's the perfect Garan.
Yeah.
Smiling, happy to see him back.
Yeah.
তোমার নাক ডাকাটা মিস করছিলাম।
Clean shaven too now.
Yeah, it's a good point.
আমাকে জন্য সব সাইডা দিয়া এখানে চই লাইলা পরিবার পরিজন সুখ আহ্লাদ সব কইয়া এখন কি হইতে চাও?
অমর।
I like the belt buckle.
I like that you can't see his eyes.
Yeah, I thought they'd done that well.
I'd like to see what the belt buckle can do. I mean, that's it lights up.
Something.
It lights
digital.
up, but what else does it do?
It won't be able to do something that's going to give you place away in the dark.
Smugglers. Classic.
Dirty smugglers.
Yeah. Not shying away from the drugs, not trying to make it blood diamonds or anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Oh, just don't have KFS's blessing. They do what they want.
Good point.
I quite like this bit here, how they just, and the Phantom always works good in the shadows, doing one at a time, and
Just
you know, it adds to the character, it adds to the mysteriousness.
yeah, this stuff. Rubel, where are you?
And it was, you know, it was done before Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the classic line from the is it the ambassador or the terrorists in the embassy? How did you defeat all of the terrorists? One at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same way you did with the last one. One at a time.
You know, you start to see the fear in the bad guys.
Yeah, they know it. They know something bad's happening.
This is kind of making me feel like, you mentioned Batman before, when I played Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, a couple of Batman games, and you know, you knock off the bad guys one by one, and then the music and he's out there, he's going to get us.
Yeah. I like there's a lot of purple colouring, whether it's the smoke, the sky.
Got that in your pipe and smoke.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want to be downwind of this little bonfire.
Again, you've got the music as well.
Yeah.
It's
Really.
speeding up the pace.
Great job.
You know, his heart rate's This bit, I don't know, like, I didn't like the fact, like, you know, it stops the bullets and stuff like that.
Yeah, agreed. I really liked the eyes lighting up out of nowhere. That was actually really cool. But yeah, your bullets don't hurt me. I'm not so sure of that.
I like this though. Like, you know, Ghost never does.
Yeah.
There's got some sort of thermal heater there, does he?
Yeah,
so,
I like the idea of that. That explains how the skull ring scars them. Is it's heat? It burns into them. It brands them.
Yeah, 20 generations later.
This bit I wasn't so sure about, to be honest, because 20 generations later, we're now talking about the year 2400 or something.
Well, I think what it is, it's now putting it in today's generation.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about this is that this is what they've created. They've created this skull cave.
Oh, for sure. I love the skull cave. I love it. It just, this is where the timelines run into each other.
Yeah, it kind of like almost corrects it, so it's like now if they ever do a sequel, it can be in our timeline featuring the 21st Phantom. I thought the whole skull cave, that was all awesome. It was very well done. The Phantom.
Oh, devil. CGI there though.
I like the Skull Cave.
It's zero.
I really like it. I really do. It stands up every time I watch it. That's probably the fourth time I've seen it now, and yeah, I get a little bit more out of it every time.
Yeah, for a fan-made film, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's a fan-made film. It's on a shoestring budget. Like we said, the costume cost them anywhere between $50 to $100. Listen to the interview afterwards, and you get a little bit more of a peek behind the scenes, and it really demonstrates just how what they've put into it, and it's a love for the character as well.
Yeah. No, it's really entertaining. So we're gonna cut shortly now to our interview with Abir Roy, director, writer, and Sagardeep Roy, Kit Walker, Christopher Standish, The Phantom. Just before we do, any final thoughts on the film, Jermaine, to begin with?
No, I think we've discussed it all.
Yep. Stephen, as someone who has just seen the whole thing for the first time, what's your takeaway right now?
That was a very well done production, and I'd love to see more of it. To tell you the truth, if you want to give them a budget and see where they can take it from there on, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
They've built the story up, exceedingly well. So we know who this character is. They didn't rely on silly things that the Zane movie did, with the ring and the dance and the tribesmen wearing it gives a sense of realism.
And as I think, if I remember rightly, I'm about to say in a far more gushing way, I think that the guys who are behind this just clearly demonstrate their absolute love of the character and their knowledge of the law and their willingness to stick within that and thus provide the Phantom that we're all familiar with. Maybe we don't, there is a lot of discussion about the costume, and maybe it wasn't exactly as lots of people would have liked to have seen it, and we've touched upon the bulletproof nature of it, which isn't quite right, but they get a lot more right than they get wrong.
Exactly, and they probably get. Let's put it this way: they get more right. They get more right than wrong, unlike the sci-fi Phantom, where I think the costume was a big failing in the sci-fi Phantom. And then in the Billy Zane one, as we all I love Billy Zane as the Phantom. But the fact that he doesn't hide his eyes. You've got the whole magical skull thing. As soon if you remove that whole magical skull type of thing, you've got a better film. Yeah. But this doesn't have the magical elements. It's it is someone next door who has trained himself up and has become the Phantom.
Yep.
Which is what the Phantom is. He's not a superhero who has to be bitten by a spider or pumped full of performance-enhancing drugs like Captain America or something.
Gamma rays, yeah.
Yeah, it is a guy who has dedicated his life to fight piracy.
Yep. All right, very good. Well, on that note, we will cut straight from this to our interview with the creative team. I hope you enjoyed the fan commentary as it was, and really hope you enjoy the next little part of the podcast where we talk to the guys who are behind it.
So what I expect is when this gets done to DVD, the special we'll have you have the extras. So there will be this podcast will be part the special commentary, and then we'll have the interview as well. That's what I'm expecting.
Oh, absolutely.
DVD.
Absolutely. Looking forward to our small cut of the take, whatever that should be. We're lucky enough today to be talking to the man who wrote the screenplay, edited the film, and directed the film, and also had a small part as a male newsreader, if I read the credits correctly. Abir Roy. Welcome, Abir.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Jermaine.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. And Abir is also joined by Sagardeep Roy, the main actor, the Phantom, Kit Walker, Christopher Standish, Cholomon himself.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So, thanks for joining us. Want to tell us a bit about yourself, guys?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's clear. Mine is a little muffled.
Okay, well, I'll translate for Germ. He's Australian, is probably hard to understand anyway.
No, it's not a problem with the accent. I guess the sound is not reaching us somehow.
Okay, all right. Well, what Germ asked is, I guess if you could introduce yourself a little bit about, your age, your background, your history with comics and Phantom comics in particular, I suppose. Abir, but perhaps we start with you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Abir Roy. I'm 28 years old. I'm from India, Kolkata, to be very precise. And my association with comic books have begun very early in my life. I began with the local comics, the Bengali comics. And it is when I was introduced to Phantom. The Phantom is such a character that comes out in Indian comics as Oronno Dev or Choloman Oshoriri. These are the two names used for the Phantom. Oronno Dev, which translates to Lord of the Forest, or Choloman Oshoriri translates to the Ghost Who Walks. These are the two names which I used for the Phantom in the comics published in India. I was introduced to the Phantom at a very young age. My mother and my father, both of them were huge fans of the comic strips by Lee Falk. What I did not know was that originally Phantom is not a Bengali comic strip. Phantom is actually published in English, but then in my tender ages I had no idea about that. So I grew up believing that the Phantom is actually a Bengali man who somehow drifted into the forests and became sort of a superhero. He has fascinated me from a very young age, and everyone in my province, everyone from the state I belong to, is a huge fan of the character. Anybody who is a comic book reader, I think the superhero they would put at the number one position above Superman, Batman, or any other comic book characters available is the Phantom, because the Phantom have been the first preference of all of these people because of the time since when Phantom was have begun publishing in West Bengal. That was a time when no other comic books were quite available here. Phantom started coming out in the newspapers, the daily newspapers, and it still does. 40 years, 50 years after the first Bengali publication happened in Bengal of Phantom, it's still continuing. We get to see Phantom comic strips in newspapers every day, translated in Bengali, and they're equally endearing, and the experience is equally fulfilling to read it.
Wow.
So now I think I'll translate for him whatever he has to say. নিজের ব্যাপারে কিছু বল আর তুই অরণ্য দেবের বা কমিক্সের কবে থেকে জুড়তে আরম্ভ করলি এক লাইন করে বল আমি ট্রান্সলেট।
Hi, Sagardeep from India. আমি ছোটবেলা থেকে বিভিন্ন কমিক্স পড়ি, তার মধ্যে অন্যতম হচ্ছে অরণ্যদেব। অরণ্যদেবের পর একটা টাইমে অন্যান্য কমিক্স এসেছে, তাতে অরণ্যদেব।
Hi, this is Sagardeep Roy. He is from West Bengal as well. He's from Kolkata, and he has been associated with comic books from a very young age. But then he was also introduced to other comic books during that time.
পরবর্তীকালে যখন ফিল্মটা করবো স্পেশালি সময় থেকে ফ্যান্টম নিয়ে আরো পড়াশোনা শুরু হলো। তার আগে যা পড়েছিলাম তার সঙ্গে একটা লিঙ্ক খুঁজে পেলাম, আমি আমার ছোটবেলাটা খুঁজে পেলাম।
I had lost my link with the Phantom after a point of time because I was no longer into comic books. But then when I was selected to play the character, I had to go back to read the comic books to understand the character a little more.
তারপরে করতে গিয়ে নিজের মধ্যে ফিল like
when I began playing the character, I rediscovered the character, and it was very important that I grew Kit Walker and the Phantom inside. So I'm not sure how successful I was.
You were very successful. I thought you played a very strong Kit Walker. What I enjoyed about the character was the depth you brought to the character.
Thank you.
No worries. So were the comics? So was it the Indrajal comics that you mainly grew up on, or was it?
The Indrajal comics. Yeah, the Indrajal comics actually started publishing the Phantom in the late 60s and the early 70s in India. That was when Indrajal comics started out. There were several other characters as well in the Phantom verse that included Mandrake and Flash Gordon, and who else was there?
Buzz Sayer and Bahadur.
Bahadur, right? Bahadur. Bahadur was there, but then though Bahadur was an Indian publication, Bahadur was actually an Indian character. People were not quite into Bahadur. Bahadur was popular, but then nobody could beat the popularity of the Phantom. Then, I mean, people believe Indrajal comics survived for the Phantom, and it did.
Yes.
But you were saying, did you read them mostly in the newspapers though, rather than in comic book form?
Yeah, I read mostly in the newspapers. I still follow them. Indrajal comics actually had stopped publishing by the age I had grown. By the time I had grown of the age to read and understand comic books, because Indrajal comics have stopped publishing in the mid 90s, the early 90s. After that, there were no more Indrajal comics. Of course, the old issues were still available, but then my introduction to the Phantom were mainly through the newspapers, and we have an annual publication in Bengali that's very popular. That's called Anando Mela. I'll just show you if you allow me.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
You have it at your fingertips. That's good to see.
Yeah.
So this isn't an annual that's just Phantom Comics, or
it used to come out once a year, but then it still is very popular. But then I guess they have some issues with the original. This is, if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, yeah. Wow.
So they have around 4 or 5 stories clubbed together, and they published it annually. And this was a treat. I mean, people used to buy these books just for the section of the Phantom.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a few friends in India, and they're all mad about the Phantom. And there was also an Australian a couple of years ago that did Kevin Patrick, who did a thesis on the popularity of the Phantom in India as well as Australia and Sweden. So it's good to be talking and learning a bit more about the Phantom and stuff like that.
So, but obviously, you have gone on to bigger and better things than just reading Phantom comics. You're a filmmaker now. Are you with Dreamcast Studios, or is it a? Can you tell us about the setup of how that all worked?
Yeah, we've made a couple of films in Dream City Artists, but the Phantom was not in our plan of in our course of action, because this is something that required a lot of research. Not just a lot of research, required primarily money, required enormous amount of resources, because a superhero film, that too with a character this big and this popular, it needs guts to go ahead. I mean, of course, it needs madness as well. Unless you're mad about something, it's very impractical to go ahead with something this big.
Yes.
So what we initially thought was that we will scrap the idea, because it's just not possible. It's not possible, as in, I'll tell you something. First of all, it's not possible to bring back the period of the origin story that's in somewhere in the 1500s. But then Sagardeep was the one who told me, let's just start. Let's begin. I mean, we might end it after shooting for a couple of days, but then let's at least start. Let's just go ahead with it. Then we'll see if things don't work out. We can think about something else. That was exactly when we thought of modernizing it and bringing it to the present day. That'll ease us the budget, and that'll also make things a little more easy in terms of making the story a little more believable.
Yeah.
So when did you first conceive of the idea of doing the Phantom movie?
There was another film that we made called Pheluda Utthan. That was about the 50 years anniversary of another local hero, of another character by the great filmmaker Satyajit Ray. He had written a character, and we made a film on that when it completed 50 years of its publication. That was an enormous hit in the online market, and there were the media here were all out in praises of it, and that was an encouraging start for us. And when we were looking for a topic for our next film, I came up with this article which said Phantom completes its 80 years in 2016 and 17. So we thought if we made something on the 50th anniversary of Pheluda, why not go ahead and make something on the 80th anniversary of Phantom? So that luckily fell in place. After 50th anniversary of the other character, the 80th anniversary of Phantom was following. So we sort of got lucky.
Yeah. So what's like with obviously the budget and the production schedule, like, did you have to get a loan for it, or was it totally out of your own pocket, or you've got the idea, what's the next step in actually doing it?
If you think about it, the project looks big, but then if I decode it, the mystery will be revealed, and I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you.
Thank you.
Filmmaking in the place from where I belong is not very expensive if you are dexterous at your art. I'll tell you why. Our cameraman and me, we had 2 cameras. We shot with 5D cameras. We had a couple of cameras, so we used those. We had to hire a couple of lenses, of course. The DOP wasn't ready to shoot with the lenses available, so we had to hire a couple of good lenses. The actor here is a friend, of course. He took his remuneration, but then that was not very much. And the rest of the production happened in a very confined place. I mean, other than maybe the sea beach sequence, the Kilawi and the boat, everything happened. We have a studio of our own. There's a studio of our own. It's actually a house with a large backyard. We had all our sets erected in the backyard, including the place where he actually took the oath of the skull, and and Guran's hut. Everything was made there, so we didn't have to. Yeah, so we didn't have to do a lot of traveling. The indoor scenes were all shot at the studio that we have, and for the outdoor scenes, especially the scenes of Kilawi, places where he was found, and the outside of Guran's hut, and as well the fight sequence between the tribals and the poachers. Even that happened outside, but then we didn't have to travel a great deal because it all happened, I mean, within a reach of around, say, 100 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So how long did it actually take to film?
It took us around 8 months, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So what about the horse race? Did you actually have to jump on the horse yourself and ride that?
He had to ride a horse.
যে আমরা তো কলকাতার রেস্ট শুটটা করি, শুটটা করার পর
we had shot the horse race in the race course of Kolkata, and he had to do a little bit of horse training for that. We had a trainer called Mr. Paul. He was very scared of horses initially, of course. Because, I mean, he's never done horse riding before, so he was initially a little jittery about climbing onto the horse. But then what happened was the horse was a sweetheart. It was a very sweet horse. I mean, they both of them gel really well. I mean, there's a scene if you can see the horse is being kissed by him.
Yes.
So that initially was was a very scary part for him to do because he's never interacted with a horse that close, and it's a huge animal.
Yeah.
And if you're not experienced in terms of jockeying or horse riding, it's a little scary to do it. But then they became really good friends. I mean, both of them. And a few scenes of the horse racing were, of course, stock shots where we shot in the race course, of course, but then we had taken a few B-roll shots and stock shots where we have inserted it. But most of the race is where he is riding. But it was shot in a much slower pace than we get to see in the film. I mean, the horses they are not quite galloping. It's more like cantering.
Fair enough. If you were going to throw me on a horse, I'd want it to be in a canter as well, at best.
Yeah, it's difficult for somebody who's not been into horse riding for quite some time, and he's joined. He's learned riding for around a couple of weeks, 3 weeks max. That's not enough to become a good rider.
So it was a lot easier riding the motorbike than the horse.
Yeah.
So on that, I guess in terms of the training and the preparation, Sagardeep, you know, if people who may not be able to see this, but you're sporting a beard now, and Abir said that's because of the next role you're picking up. How much physical training and preparation did you have to do in that sense to fill the Phantom's costume?
Physical training বা কি করতে হয়েছে একটু
রেগুলারলি জিমে যেতাম আর তো ফিটনেস রাখার জন্য মাঠে তো যেতেই হতো
He is into sports. I'm translating what he's saying. He's into sports.
Yep.
He's into soccer. He plays a lot of soccer. He plays a lot of football. That's a part of his daily routine. And he wasn't quite a gym person, but then for that he had to hit the gym for a couple of months.
তারপরে সাঁতারটা পারতাম ছোটবেলা থেকেই, ওটাতে অসুবিধা হয়নি, যা জাম্প ফাম্প করার সেগুলো অটোমেটিকলি স্পোর্টসের জন্য চলেই এসছে। আর বাদবাকি গরমটা স্পেশালি সেটা বল, আমার এখানে যেটা গরম সেই জায়গায় ওই কস্টিউমসটা পরা মারাত্মক।
What he had to start for this film was swimming because he had a little fat in both the sides of his tummy, and fat wasn't permitted to play Phantom. He had to start swimming to get in absolute good shape. Though he says he was not quite satisfied with the way his physique turned out to be because he needed to buff up a little more to look like the sketches given in the books. But then for him, according to him, the biggest challenge was battling the heat because it was very hot when we were shooting here. It was around, in terms of weather, it was around 42 degrees centigrade, and the costume was excruciatingly hot for him.
It's interesting you should say that because only last weekend we were lucky enough to talk to Mike Manley, who's the current artist in the dailies, and one of the comments he made was that the real Phantom, if he existed, would die of dehydration from wearing that costume in the jungle.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. বলছেন যে আর্টিস্ট আছে, the artist যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আঁকে, যে যদি অরিজিনালি কোনো ফ্যান্টম থাকতো রিয়েলি, তাহলে সে ডিহাইড্রেশনে মারা যেত, অতটা অবস্থা। He would second that. I mean, he couldn't agree more because he was almost on the verge of passing out when we were shooting the action scene.
Oh wow!
সবচেয়ে বেশি টেম্পারেচার ছিল আমাদের এখানে, মধ্যে আগুনের মধ্যে মানে আমি অজ্ঞান হয়ে যাচ্ছি, আর অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট মানে ওই বসিনজিতে যে আরেকজন।
Okay, I'll translate what he's saying. The day we were shooting the final action sequence, when Phantom is actually revealed in costume, it was the hottest day of the season here, and he had to shoot in front of the fire. There was a fire being made, and in front of the fire, he had to hire a guy who would supply him with glucose water every 5 minutes, because after a shot he would actually empty one bottle full of glucose water. It was so hot. And another thing which he wants to say is that he had to the mask which was on his face, it was so sweaty. The mask was actually slipping down his face now, so he had to be it had to be gummed to his face after every shot because it was so sweaty. It didn't stay on his face. So that was one of the many challenges that he faced in costume.
Yeah, I was talking to the person who manages your Facebook page. I'm not sure who it was, but they were saying that it was hard to get on and off as well, and you had to make sure you had to go to the toilet first or something like that as well, because you couldn't just take it off. Like there was a long process to put it back on.
I'll tell you what. ওনারা যেটা জিজ্ঞেস করেছেন সেটা হচ্ছে যে কস্টিউমটা পরা এবং খোলার মধ্যে কি কি মানে কি ডিফিকাল্টি হয়েছিল সেটা যদি বলিস।
সবচেয়ে বেশি প্রবলেম সেটা হচ্ছে যে টয়লেট করতে যাওয়াটা আর যাবে না, মানে একবার পরে নিলে আর টয়লেট করতে যাওয়া যাবে না।
Okay. What he's saying is that the biggest difficulty that he had in costume is that once you are into costume, you couldn't pee unless because there was no way of getting the lowers down or there was no zipper in the costume. So once you're in it, you're in it. You're in it till the scene was done.
আলাদা পার্টে পার্টে তৈরি ছিল বডির জন্য। আর আমি গ্লুকোজ ওয়াটার বেশি করে খেতে পারছিলাম না, এখন বেশি খেলে বেশি টয়লেট পাবে।
Okay. Every part of it, like the chest, the abs, the shoulders, there were separate parts which had to be stuck onto the undersuit that he had, and the poor guy, he's saying he couldn't even have a lot of glucose water because the more water you intake, the more peace you feel, and then things get ugly.
I was about to ask about, yes, pouring water in one end and then not letting it go the other.
Incoming, no outgoing.
So, the design on the suit, was that, like, tell us a bit about the design of the suit and, like, the budgets you had with that and as well, if that's okay.
No problem with that. There's nothing to hide. The film is out. I mean,
yeah. No, it's great.
I'll tell you something. The suit was made at an approximate budget of around 3,000 Indian rupees. That's like, in terms of US dollars, that's like how much?
500.
No. I'll just do a quick conversion in terms of USD. 70 হচ্ছে 770 হচ্ছে 1 টাকা. So 7,000 হচ্ছে $100. That's somewhere around $50.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
50 USD. 3,000 Indian rupees. So that was what the suit cost us. The suit was made out of a thing called I don't know exactly the full form of it. It's called EVA foam or something like that. It was made out of that, and the guy who designed it, we had initially planned of giving him spandex, but then he looked extremely stupid in spandex, and yeah, I mean the spandex just doesn't go now. And spandex, the biggest disadvantage of spandex is that the suit was fine till the neck, but then you couldn't. Hello?
Yep, still, yeah.
The suit was fine till the neck, but the cowl, it was not possible to make the cowl in spandex. Even if you see the Billy Zane film, the cowl of the Phantom is a little different from all other cowl superheroes, be it Batman or anybody else. They wear a cowl that covers their face almost in half. Now the Phantom is something that has the entire face open. So it's difficult for spandex to kind of have it just on the head and not the other parts of the face. Spandex doesn't work like that. So there had to be a helmet made, because otherwise the problem that would have been if had even the cowl and the neck been together, he wouldn't have been able to turn his head. That would have been torturing him more, and he would have left the film midway, and we would have been. So what we had to do was we had to make a separate piece for the head and a separate piece for the neck. This had another advantage is that the separate neck piece actually made him look wider, made him look a little more intimidating to the villains, and gave an overall mechanized look to the entire armor. And we thought of not going with spandex for another reason is that this Phantom in our film belonged to 2016 or 17. I mean, a man, a vigilante wearing a spandex outfit. Of course, he'll look a little more faithful to the comics in spandex, but then he'll be vulnerable to gunshots and knife wounds and So we kind of making it a little more realistic and giving it an armory feel more than just skip.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I must say, I suppose one of the questions that people had at the time when it was coming out is, what is the costume going to look like? Everybody's really keen to see what the design of the costume will be. And because I watched it obviously back in November when it came out, but then I've watched it a couple of times since, and again today in preparation for talking to you guys, and it makes sense in terms of someone who decides in 2016 that they're going to give up their life in the city and become this phantom character. The process that Kit Walker or Christopher goes through to become Kit Walker and so on, it does make sense for a modern day character who's someone who's doing that.
Right. I mean, it's. I know it's uncomfortable for Indian weather, but then you gotta make it a little more attractive as well, and it's with the time as well. I mean, it's with the modern times. Though, I mean, if you watched the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, they went for the armory look, but then they deviated completely out of it. I mean, it's very difficult to relate to Phantom in the costume that they had. I don't know.
Yeah, tend to agree with that one. It's So the thing that I loved about your depiction of the character, one of the things that I loved about it, which we already talked about, the depth of the character of Kit Walker, but you can tell you're a Phantom fan because there's so much Phantom lore in the film. Like there's Kilauea, there's jungle sayings, there's poachers, there's the skull oath, there's Eden. You've got the guns are correct, and then you've even got the cave at the end and all that. You did a great job in adding all of these Phantom lores.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think this is the biggest compliment anybody's given us.
Oh no, it's 100% true. Like when I wrote it, when I sat down today, I sat down with a notebook thinking, okay, let's write down the things that I like and the things that I don't like, and all of the things that Jermaine's just said about the elements of Phantom lore that you brought in. It is a Phantom film, even though it may be in a language that we don't understand, and it's set in 2016, not 1500 when you're doing an origin film. All of those things make it distinctly Phantom, and that's something that I think you mentioned the Sci-Fi series. It didn't do those sorts of things anywhere near as effectively.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is such a lovely compliment that we've gotten. I mean, this made our day, honestly. Because I'll tell you something. The Phantom is not just a mere character. The Phantom is a religion, I believe.
Yes.
Phantom is. I mean, come on. It cannot be equated with. I mean, he cannot be just a superhero. I mean, that's an insult to him, just calling him a mere vigilante or a superhero, because he is so much more. He is a world of his own. He means family. He means a father. He means a legacy. He means pride. He means everything that humans are capable of emoting. I mean, he's not just about going out there with guns and punching baddies with the skull motif on their cheeks. He's not just about that. He's about being a responsible father. He's about passing down his legacy to his son. He's about laying down his life for people he doesn't even know. I mean, the pygmies out there, who are they to him? He's a white guy from Europe. I mean, why would he just go out there and dedicate his lives and generations after him for their welfare? He is God. I mean, that's the reason we call him Orono.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very narrow-minded for people to call him superhero. He's not. I sincerely have problems with that word.
Well, Billy Zane famously said he's not a superhero, he's superhuman.
Right. He's superhuman. He's just
sentiment.
He's a sentiment, exactly.
Yeah. You seem very passionate about the Phantom. It's great. It's like, this wasn't just this was a love. You can see the love in the film, but also in talking to you as well, the endearment to the character as well.
Thank you. I mean, what we had very limited resources. What we wanted to put in, both me and him. Initially we were really good friends. We know each other for quite some time, more than 10, 15 years now. But we thought that I mean, yeah, we cannot be competing with Hollywood in terms of budget or in terms of visuals, but what we can compete with them in terms of is the emotion. What we can compete in terms of developing the character. It doesn't take money to develop a good character. It doesn't take money, or it doesn't take a huge studio backup. Take a story that touches the hearts of people.
Yeah.
We won't be able to give huge it deserves, but then of course what we can give to the character is the heart, the emotion, the sentiment, the love.
Yeah, and I think you certainly achieved that with the whole backstory of Christopher Standish and the way that you established the Walker Foundation, and he's lost his mum, and the love, the affection that he clearly feels for his dad. That, you know, I've lost those people, and now what do I do with my life? It just is. It's all of that spirit of the character that we love so much that you've taken us on that journey. And yes, we end up at the fandom, but it really is a journey about a man who's really discovering his purpose in life, I think.
Right, thank you. I mean, I'm glad that that idea actually percolated to you. That's exactly what we wanted to show. I mean, if you remember in the scene where his friend dies trying to save him, and at the funeral where he's being burned, that's what he feels. I mean, the same thing happened to my dad. He died trying to save me. And this guy who died trying to save me for the second time, this is the second person who died trying to save me. Even this guy has a son, 1.5-year-old son. And that son is just as unfortunate as I am. So that's where he grows emotionally. That's where he actually sits with Guran, and then Guran tells him how pathetic in the condition they are in. And then after that, he just gets up, digs out the skull and takes the oath. Now, that's where he actually becomes insane. I mean, that's where he grows as a character. Enough is enough. There's nothing left for me to be done. I mean, I won't be just sitting here and pulling down honeycombs and ending my life like that. I won't do that. I mean, I'll just make a difference.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that I love about the movie is that you do not pull any punches with the social themes that you are challenging in the movie. Like, you've got your social outcasts with the banda, you've got your pirates, you've got the caste levels, which I believe is quite big in India. You've got the corruption. Now, was this an opportunity to be able to highlight these issues and allow a character like the Phantom to fight social justice?
Yeah, that's fantastically pointed out by you. I'll tell you why. Because the Bengala that we've shown, of course, it's Bengal in our film, not Bengala. The Bengal that we've shown, that's very closer to the Bengal in reality. I mean, we still do have pirates in the region that we've shown. The Sundarbans, the Delta region that we've shown in the film, where the forest is actually based in, we still do have pirates there. People do get robbed by pirates. We have immense cross-border corruption going on in that area as of today. Still in 2018, we've got immense cross-border corruption going on there. Smuggling is a prevalent art there. I mean, people there, people who live there is a very small population of tribals who still stay there. They are almost reduced to animals. They do not have proper means of livelihood. They do not have places where they can cultivate their food. They live by selling branches and wood from the nearby forest. The nearest city or town, the nearest town from that place is around 80 or 90 kilometers. So that's a very sorry state of affairs in the place that we've shown, and we really need a Phantom there. So it's nothing but reality. I mean, it happens there. It happens. People, immense amount of narcotics, cocaine and heroin, and these things are still the cross-border trade, illegal trades of these illegal items are still very, very prevalent in those areas. Yeah, I mean, they come up with newer and newer drugs. I mean, newer and newer drugs because the Sundarbans, the forests that we're talking about, they are immensely rich in terms of vegetation. And the tribals out there, they are still treated like slaves. They are forced into making hallucinogens from the trees that are inside those forests. So it's really a very sorry state of affairs there in reality as well. It's not just the kind of, I mean, had Lee Falk been alive today, he would have found immense similarity to the stories that he. Yeah, of course they don't wear leaves anymore. They don't carry those spears anymore, like in the comic books. That part is different, but then the social structure of it and the picture is the same. It's not changed a great deal in all these years.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% agree. It's an area that's rich with it's a terrible state of affairs for the people that live there. It's an area that's rich with possibilities for, as you say, a phantom or a hero to step up. It seems almost trite to say or silly to say now, but is it the sort of place where you could write phantom stories about that for phantom comic books? Have you ever thought about writing comic books yourself?
Comic books, no. And I do write stories. I do write my scripts. I tried writing a comic book character. I mean, I tried creating a superhero back in my school days, but then that's just didn't work out.
No, I think we've all had a crack at doing something like that at some point.
There was I even forgot the name of character. It was maybe a space dweller, maybe something on the lines of Flash Gordon. But yeah, I mean, we've all been creators at some point or the other. I had my creation phase as well back when I was.
Yeah, sure.
So will we see a sequel to this movie?
Sorry?
Will we see a sequel to the Cholomon?
Sequel. My friend has been very interested to play the character for the second time because he feels he's grown as an actor after the first film and he's understood Phantom after the first film. We are still in talks of a sequel. We've not brought down anything on paper. We've not written a script yet, but we're thinking of a sequel. But then I had a discussion with the admin of our Facebook page. I guess he had written to a couple of fans, I think Mr. Parker included, for a couple of ideas on what to do for the sequel. But we look to introduce a couple of characters in the next film. I mean, Diana will be there, and we need to have a new Guran because the same Guran can't be there 20 generations on. Has to be a new guy playing Guran. And we've thought of starting over with I mean, if there is a sequel, it will start with the ending of the 20th Phantom and beginning of the 21st Phantom. It will start with the death of the 20th Phantom and how he passes on the mantle to his son and who becomes the 21st Phantom. I think Rama Singh could be there as a potential villain.
And that's one I think we forgot to say before. Even the Singh pirates were mentioned in this, the Singh Brotherhood. So you really did touch all bases. I'm a little bit sad to hear that you would go with a different Guran, though, to be honest, because the guy that you got to play Guran in this film, maybe it was your attention to detail with the hat that he wore, but honestly, he looked like he'd stepped straight out of a Cy Barry comic strip into your film.
So happy to trust me. He would have been so happy to hear about this. I mean, I'll tell you how he's not even a professional actor. He is a friend who's got a little tea and coffee joint near the place where I stay, and I'll tell you that's how I grab my actors. I mean, it's just that both of us kind of go to his shop in the evening at times, and we have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea maybe. And he has done a couple of acting assignments on stage before this, not quite on film or on video. So we just come up. In theater. We were sitting in his shop one day, and I was looking for a Guran. Then we had thought of another person. We thought of maybe we can change the look of Guran a little more, because first of all, it's not quite possible to find someone of the height of around 3 feet, 3.5 feet, because Guran is essentially a pygmy. It's not possible to find a pygmy today. I mean, it has to be either a midget, it has to be a person who's vertically challenged, or has to be somebody who looks like that, maybe of a little taller height. So and he was in his shop, and I guess he had just taken a bath, and he came out with a towel wrapped around his torso, and he had a bare torso, and he had a huge tummy, and I was like, man, you're looking just like the comic book Guran. I mean, he just looks like that. He has a tummy, and he doesn't wear anything on his torso, and he has a sort of a leaf skirt, a skirt that's made out of leaves, and he had. So I was like, why not try him? And then the first scene he appeared as Guran was in the beach, where both of them are sitting together, and Guran is saying how dreadful their condition is, and he nailed it completely. I mean, he just slipped into the character. I wanted Guran to be a very compassionate character, a very lovable character, as if the person is Guran is Phantom without a mask.
Yeah.
Guran is actually Phantom without a mask. He is Phantom without the physical fitness, without the costume. That's all. Guran is equally courageous. Guran is, in fact, he is cleverer than the Phantom, and he is a very loving companion.
Yeah.
Very loving companion. I mean, he would come in front of he would take a bed for Kit, and Rana Ghosh, the name of the guy who's played it, Rana Ghosh. He as a person is just like that. As a person is so like that. He's a very good friend. He's a very faithful person. He's a very honest man. And when he actually delivered his lines as Guran, that honesty sort of came into his lines, and that was when I decided, okay, we'll never find a better Guran.
Yeah, totally agree. You got to
and the relationship between the two actors, it came through from the screen.
বলছে তোদের রিলেশনশিপ মানে গুরান আর অন্যদের রিলেশনশিপটা খুব ভালো দেখানো হয়েছে, এটা ওদেরকে বল কিছু একটা বল এটা নিয়ে।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি গুরান তো আমাদের পাড়ার দাদাই আর কি, তার একটা কফি শপ রয়েছে, সেই কফি শপে আমি যাই, তুইও যাই। এবার যেতে যেতে একটা বন্ধুত্ব আগে থেকে একটা রিলেশনশিপ ছিল আর কি। সবাই তো আমরা যে ইউনিটটা কাজ করি তারা কেউ প্রফেশনাল না, মানে সবাই টুকটাক আমরা বন্ধুর মতোই, তাই সবার সঙ্গে সবার রিলেশনটা তাই।
He's saying he had done a little homework to build that, because a large portion of the second half of the film depended on the friendship of Guran and Christopher. So what he did was he started going to the coffee shop a little more than usual, and his point was to build a more personal relationship with him than making it strictly professional, and that's what has helped. Because Rana, who had played the character, the guy was not quite a very, he was a little shy guy. He was a little, he was not quite that free in front of the camera. So that rigidity had to be reduced a little, and he worked on it. I mean, he constantly went there. He explained about the character Guran to him, and they were in constant talks. They sat there, sat for hours, and just gossiped about nothing. They talked, and they talked, and they talked, so that the friendship grew, and that's what was translated well on screen.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
You did a great job with Guran. Yeah, so you got to keep Guran for the next sequel.
Yep.
See, we'd love to recast him as Guran. He would love to reprise his role as Guran again. But then that won't be. I mean, yeah, Phantom can be born with the same face. I mean, Kit Walker can have similar faces. I mean, one Kit Walker can have the face like his father, and then the next one can have a face identical to his father. So that way, he can become Phantom again. But then it will be a bit too much for Guran to have the same.
I think we'd be prepared to overlook it. He looked that good.
Okay. বলছে যে গুরান, আমি বলছি যে গুরানকে যদি রিকাস্ট করা হয় somehow, ওকে রানাদাকে যদি রাখা হয়, তো আমি তখন বলছি যে একই মুখ তো হতে পারে না গুরানের, ফ্যান্টমের একই মুখ হতে পারে, বাট গুরানের সেম ফেস, বলছি যে না আমরা ওটা ওভারলুক করে দেবো, ওকে রাখা হয়। He'll be so happy. Trust me, Rana would be so happy to hear this. I mean, he's a very simple man. He's a darling. I mean, he's a very simple man with simple tastes. Doesn't talk much. Very quiet sort of a person. And he was so happy when he got these compliments about Guran. I mean, people here who know Guran, who read the comics well, they appreciated him so much. I mean, especially not just because of his looks, not just because of the way he looks, because he just wears the hat once. I mean, no one wears a hat like that. Illogical for him to wear the hat throughout the entire film and go around. He wears the hat just once. But even without the hat, he was so endearing in his portrayal.
Yes.
And people appreciated him so very much. And he came up and asked me one day, is a part 2 happening? Is a sequel happening? Am I there? I said, Quran would be there. Somebody else would be playing it. I mean, maybe it's your descendant, but then can't be you. He was a little disheartened at that. So when he hears that you guys want him to be back as Quran, he'd be so happy. Let's see. It's difficult to get somebody like that. I mean, in terms of acting, maybe I'll get better actors than him, but in terms of looks and that simplicity, it's very difficult to duplicate him.
Absolutely.
That's totally
একটা কম্পিটিশন থেকে যাবে, একটা কম্পারিজন থেকে যাবে।
Yeah, what he's saying is that even if we do get somebody like him or somebody maybe to play Quran, there'll be a comparison that will be inevitable with him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What about so that's I guess the human element of the film. What about the digital effects that you threw? Like I gathered the fire at different stages was all done digitally, and certainly Devil and Hero in the last couple of minutes seemed like were they digital effects as well?
They were digital effects. The Devil was digital effect. The horse was shot in a separate plate and of course put there because it's. I wasn't quite present throughout the entire making of the VFX, but whatever little I could gather, it was that it was not possible to get Hero and Devil in an island with a cave like that, so that had to be recreated. The sea beach was there, the hills were there, but then the skull cave had to be animated on that, and the horse. I mean, the island that we're talking about, it's nearly impossible to take a horse to that island. I mean,
right.
It's very difficult to take the horse on the boat, and the waves are quite tremendous there, so the horse might be scared. He might just want to jump off. So that would have been a huge problem for us. And you don't find quite good wolves in India. There are Indian wolves are smaller in size and they resemble foxes more. And Devil is a pretty well
big one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, the skull, the inside of the skull cave towards the end, was that taken from the Billy Zane movie, or did you do that as well?
We built a set for that.
Oh wow! It was very professionally done. Like I really enjoyed it. Like you nailed the elements.
Set for that. Of course, there were digital enhancements to that. Elements were added on that with computer graphics. But then the set was constructed. It was not a very big set. It was a budget set, small, not very small. Maybe 12 feet across the floor. That was the size of the set. But yeah, it was the cave walls were recreated. It was made.
It's an amazing amount of effort for what was 30 seconds, 45 seconds towards right at the end of the film.
No, we wanted initially we had planned to have more scenes inside the skull cave, but then since the length of the film was going way too much, I mean for a short film even 35 minutes is a long time, and we weren't sure how much people would like that. I mean they just might not like it in the midway and they might shut it down. But then, luckily, that didn't happen, and people continued watching it till the end.
Yeah.
So at the end, people were like, "We got to see Phantom in costume really less. I mean, you could have a little more time given to Phantom." But then it's more about the origin story. It's more about the characters.
Yeah, exactly
less
right.
About,
Yeah.
And you can always do it for the sequel.
So I know with our YouTube videos that we put up, and we might do a review of a statue or flick through a comic or whatever, it can be very tempting to just jump on the YouTube analytics and see how long people are watching it for and where they're coming from and that sort of thing. Do you have access to? Do you know where are people watching this? Is it mostly being watched by Indian people, or is it being watched a lot in Australia?
There's the channel that sadly YouTube views are not. I mean, there are around about 4,000 people have watched it in YouTube, but in Facebook it's crossed around 35,000.
Oh wow!
Facebook views are more, and we haven't boosted that for quite some time. So maybe if we boost it a little more, it'll 45,000. 45,000. Yeah, total. I'll tell you something. The total views of it in terms of we have a local sharing platform in Bengal where we share it in mobile. So the total number of views would be somewhere around 50,000-60,000 now, as of today. And the demographics in YouTube, it's mostly India, Australia, and Norway. These are the three countries. India mostly, then Australia, then Norway.
Right. Wow, that's I'm sat back in my seat a little bit because I thought 4,000 was impressive, but you're saying 60. That's yeah, you must be pleased.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we didn't expect it to even cross 10,000, but then it's gone to 60 now, and hopefully it'll garner a little more in the future. As actually, I'll tell you why. There's a problem with this. I mean, people don't search Phantom on YouTube as much because they know there is no content on the Phantom. There's nothing being made on the Phantom. If you search something on Spider-Man, they'll find loads of things on Spider-Man to have a visual experience. But then, if you look at it from that angle, nothing on the Phantom has been made. I mean, no substantial visual video element has been made on the Phantom. I mean, yeah, there has been a cartoon program, Phantom 2040, maybe Defenders of the Earth, but none of them is quite well available in YouTube. And the popularity of those two series is nothing compared to the present day superheroes that we have, the Marvel and the DC characters. First, secondly, the biggest blow in terms of Phantom popularity came when the film came out of Billy Zane. I mean, that was not a hit. Of course, I felt that was a fantastic adaptation. That was a very faithful adaptation. Everything in that film was straight out of the comic books, except the Quran. I didn't like the Quran.
Yeah, you nailed it. Your Quran was better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Thanks. I mean, I think the Bengala was in Asia, I believe, because all the characters there were Asians. But if you because we had constraints in terms of showing an African Bengala, they did not. They could have easily put it in Africa. I mean, they could have easily been faithful to the comic books even more.
Yeah.
So I felt that was a wonderful film. That was a full-on summer entertainment. But then somehow that film did not click, and that was where our beloved hero lost international popularity. Everybody sort of forgot the character that exists. Or Phantom, the first superhero. I mean, he's the first comic book we have. Mandrake came first, then came Phantom, but then Mandrake cannot quite be called as a costume superhero technically.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, if Hollywood ever does decide to go again and do a remake, I'd love to get you over there as the director or the creative consultant at least, because the passion you show for the character and the way that you really respect the law is something that I'd love to see translated on the very big screen.
Thank you so very much. I mean, that's such a pleasure. Thank you.
So I really appreciate your time. With like licensing, so like this is a fan film. You know, there's no licensing involved or anything like that. Have you heard from King Features or anything like that, or is it just the fans that?
Nobody has come up with any kind of objection, and nobody has come up with any kind of negative statement. Nobody has come up with any copyright violation laws and stuff.
একজন বলেছিল স্পেশালি যে ফ্যান্টমের তো ওরকম বুলেট প্রুফ জ্যাকেট ছিল না
সেটা বলছে না, বলছে যে copyright violation nobody has come up with anything that might land us in legal trouble. Because honestly, I mean, we did not make it with the intention of earning any money, and frankly, even the film, the YouTube copy of it is not even monetized, so we're not even making any money out of the YouTube.
Yeah. And no one could doubt your, as I said, there's a tribute to Lee Falk right at the very top of the film, and you go into great detail. I really enjoyed the opening of the film where you go into detail about the characters' input into Bengalan culture and Indian culture as well. I was going to ask you about that actually. You stated in there that lots of kids were being named after the Phantom. I haven't got my book here. But there was Abir. What was the name that you highlighted?
Oronno Deb.
And what does that translate?
It means the Lord of the Forest.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we have people called Aronnodev in India. I mean, in Bengal especially. I mean, I'll tell you something. When Phantom was actually when Phantom got started being translated in Bengali, that was in the early 70s, I believe, 71, 72, maybe when Indrajal comics started coming up. That was when our parents was of the age of like around 5, 6, 7. That was the age when those people, when they've grown up, they've had kids, and they have begun naming their male children after this character. So I mean, there's a shot in the film where you see, we've scrolled down on Facebook, we've googled that, we've searched that name, Aronnodev, and we've scrolled down. There are so many people called Aronnodev. I mean, you don't name somebody Spider-Man. You don't name some. Yeah, of course you can name somebody Peter Parker. Talking about that, and naming somebody after the hero's name, that's something, that's madness. I mean, that happens here.
And they are all have Bengali surname.
Yeah, and they all have surnames. I mean, that's Bengali. I'll tell you something, like
Aronnodev Chatterjee,
it's Aronnodev Chatterjee, or Aronnodev Roy, or Aronnodev Mitra. These are Bengali surnames with the name Aronnodev.
Yeah, I managed to talk my wife into if we had a boy to call it Kit, and it never quite happened. I got 2 girls instead.
Wow, that's
I was close.
It's short and sweet. Oh, he's being called as Kit Walker nowadays.
No, not Walker, just Kit.
Oh, just Kit.
Just Kit. Well, speaking of children, actually, when I sat down and watched it this afternoon, my 8-year-old was walking past, and he stopped and watched he probably only came 5 minutes in, and he was really blown away by it too. And he couldn't read a lot of the subtitles, obviously, or they would move too quick for him because he's only 8. But afterwards, I said, "What was your favourite scene, or what was your favourite bit?" And he really loved the scene where Christopher reached in and grabbed the skull out from under the sand and held that up, and that really dramatic moment, and then the swearing of the oath. So that really struck a chord with him.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the best compliments and the most honest compliments that we can get are from kids. I mean, they're very honest. They have a blank mind, and whatever they say straight from the heart. So it's a compliment from a kid means a lot to us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you have any plans? Or is there any plans to actually dub it into English? I'm not sure whether I'd like that or not, but just to ask the question.
Yeah, we were actually planning to dub it in English as well as Spanish. These are the 2 languages we were looking forward to. But then we need English, of course, I can. We have somebody working on the Spanish script as well. That'll take us some time. So we have thought of making, dubbing the film in English as well as Spanish. I'm not sure how good that'll sound, but then.
No. And as I say, I'm not sure that I'd enjoy. I have no problem with reading the subtitles, and I think I enjoyed the authenticity of that, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. Although, no, I really enjoyed it. Dan, you got any other questions?
Oh, my son did ask me to ask you how long it took to film, so I've already asked that one. I guess. No, I just to encourage you to do a sequel. I think we'd all love to see it.
We love a sequel as well. I think for the sequel, the biggest change that we'll bring forward is the costume. I mean, he quit if I don't change the costume now. He's threatened me with about doing that. He's not wearing that padded suit anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and we've thought of trying a new material. Our costume designer, we have to speak to that person. We have to do a little bit of more brainstorming for coming up with a different material that's not as bad as spandex and not as uncomfortable as the padded costume that we had this time.
Yeah, especially when you're feeling in 42 degrees.
He's taking horse riding lessons now because there's no cheating this time. He just, there was a mere race and the horse was barely cantering in that. This time it has to gallop. This time it has to be hero. This time it has to be the white stallion. There's no escaping. 21st Phantom has to ride horse.
speaking of the
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of the costume design, do you like that moment where the mask's eyes glow is really striking, and the belt, the LED or the digital element of the belt is pretty cool. And I gather that the skull ring, you could heat that up through the glove. Is the idea with that? How much time did you spend, I guess, on those elements of the costume? How far through are they thought?
I'll tell you something. The first criteria of the costume, the first creative input that I had, and which he disliked, was I did not want the eyes to be shown. I mean, the primary. I'm a loyalist. I'm an old timer. I believe the sanctity of the Phantom lies in the fact that people does not see his eyes. The moment you get to see the eyes of the Phantom, he doesn't remain Phantom anymore. People who see the Phantom's face die is the most gruesome death. So that's the jungle saying. So you do not get to see his eyes. Even in the Billy Zane film, I was very disappointed. I mean, yeah, he wears a mask, but then why not cover the eyes? I mean, come on, Spider-Man doesn't show his eyes, so why not the Phantom? So I was like, yeah, we have to make something. We have to come up with a material. We have to come up with anything that doesn't show the eyes. I mean, even if he's wearing a mask, the eyes should not be visible. This was one. And the glowing belt concept and the glowing eyes concept came from our costume designer, Mr. Ghosh, Mrityunjay Ghosh. He was the one who said, why not make it a little more exciting, since you are actually going for an armor, since you are actually going for a high-tech suit. We'll try to make it a little more exciting because he's out there. I mean, we need to show the night vision somehow because he's in the forest. He'll be carrying a flashlight, right? And of course, he's human. He needs to see at night. So we'll give a night vision to the glasses, and when he switches on the night vision, why not make it glow? Yeah. That'll make the costume look a little more exciting. That'll be a little intimidating for the adversaries. And the belt can be a flashlight, as well as you can have that glowing, the skull logo, and that'll look good. So we came up with that, and that sort of was a rage to the people. I mean, with the people liked it a lot. I mean, most people did not quite like the modernization. They wanted a very classical costume, the original costume. But then everybody said, if you make a sequel, keep that the glowing belt and the glowing eyes. They are perfect. Don't change them.
No, they were good, and I think that whole sequence really showed, I think, how the Phantom can terrorise a bad guy. You know, Phantom rough on Roughnecks, you don't have to be gently laying them down to sleep or whatever. He really scared those guys around the campfire. So again, showing really effectively the mood of the character, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he is otherwise a very docile guy, but then I've seen him getting into squabbles when he was young, and he wasn't completely full-time into acting. Of course, after he became an actor, then he couldn't afford to get into squabbles, but then otherwise he's a very intimidating guy. He's quite brawny now. He was a weakling before we started this career. Intimidating to people, but then I mean, once you're in the costume, even the most docile of persons looks intimidating and looks
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, guys, for your time tonight. Really appreciate being able to pick your brain and find out a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of the making of Cholomon. As you can tell, we really enjoyed it, but I think I'm going to watch it and enjoy it even more again now. Just hearing the passion in your voice about the character and the lore and everything behind it. So,
Thank you so very much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, Dan. For both of you.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for your time tonight. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. This is going to be one of my favourite podcasts, I think, when we get to go back and watch this on YouTube and put it all together. Really enjoyed doing the fan commentary, and then really enjoyed being able to talk to the creative team behind it as well. You enjoyed the interview, Jermaine, as someone who took part in it?
Yeah, it was two things I got out of it was the love for the character. Like, Abir loved the character, and you could see it. Like, he was he was going and he was, he went on he went on probably more tangents than what we do.
Yeah.
And then and then when he like pulled out the comics to show us and stuff
That's exactly right. We say, oh, are there comic books there? Yes, on the shelf behind me.
Yeah.
So,
and then he grabbed them out and showed us, and then even Cholomon, you could see that while he kind of fell out of love with the character, you could tell that his love had grown as he'd done it, and so much so that he wants to do a sequel.
Yeah.
He wants to do the next Phantom movie and stuff like that. So it's like, he probably, it's probably not getting a bucket load of money for it.
No.
But, he's developing a love for the character as well, like how Billy Zane did. Yeah. You can tell that Billy Zane enjoyed the character and enjoyed the role, as you can see that he likes the role as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to be holding my breath for a sequel, but I hope that it comes about at some stage.
I reckon we will see a sequel. I really do. It might not be for about another year, but I reckon I would not be surprised if we see a sequel.
Maybe we've given him the little bump of joy that he needs to go back to the well. So,
yeah.
Steve, you'd like to see a sequel, I assume?
Yeah, I reckon I'll come out before the third Hermes comic.
That was good. All right, so we'll wrap up the podcast. Any last thoughts, Steve? What did you think of our interview with the creative team?
Well, it's just amazing what you can find in someone's backyard and what you can do with a laundry. It's just incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, so we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody. As I said, really enjoyed this one and the opportunity to put hopefully what is going to be a really cool little YouTube, quite long YouTube clip together. And again, that comes back to the patrons, the people who have supported us there. I hope you are enjoying the little goodies that you're finding in the P3 section of the website. Those people who are supporting us there. As always, that website is chroniclechamber.com, where you can go for all the latest and greatest Phantom news. We try and keep that as up to date as we possibly can. Get along to the Reddit message board and give us your ideas about what we should be discussing. Email us at chroniclechamber@gmail.com for all complaints and compliments, preferably more compliments than complaints, if you wouldn't mind.
Don't give them the option, just compliments.
Yeah, that's it. What else have we got? Social media, Facebook at Chronicle Chamber, Phantom fan page or the Phantom Collector group, Twitter at Chronicle Tweets, Instagram at Chronicle Chamber. Those are going to get more and more updated news, I'm sure. But look, the best way to make sure that you know what we're doing and can listen to all of the podcasts is to subscribe on iTunes, or whatever your preferred podcast provider is. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure talking Phantom and talking Cholomon. This is the official Cholomon podcast, and really enjoyed the chat tonight with you guys.
Likewise.
Likewise, mate. So everyone, happy Choloming.
Happy Cholomoning.
Happy Cholomon.
500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck. And upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds